Hello, my name's Anthony Huey. I'm an international keynote speaker and communications consultant, and I've delivered nearly 3,000 keynote speeches, workshops, and seminars in my career. And I've trained thousands of people just like you how to be a more dynamic presenter, whether it's with one person across the desk when you're running a meeting, delivering from PowerPoint, or you yourself are talking to 500 people at an annual meeting or sales conference. I give about 120 presentations all around the world every year, and about half the people I speak to are CEOs and presidents of companies. And a lot of the times when I walk in the room, I'm greeted by these men and women with these blank looks on their face. What do you mean, Anthony? Oh, I know how to communicate. Oh, I'm a smart man. I have a Harvard MBA, make $5 trillion a year. When I have to go into a presentation or a conversation or run a meeting or whatever, I go in there and I wing it like I always do. Well, you are going to learn from me that that is a very dangerous philosophy to have anytime that you're communicating, is to wing it. In fact, there are two things in particular that I've seen happen when people wing it. The first is called imploding. This is where in the middle of your presentation, you crumple to the ground like a little baby, start crying, and then walk out of the room. It rarely happens, but I've seen it. What more than likely happens when you wing it is you walk out of that presentation, you leave that meeting, you hang up that phone, and you say to yourself, ooh, I wish that went better. Raise your hand if you've ever walked out of a meeting and said to yourself, I wish that went better. Nearly 100% of people raise their hand. My mantra, my philosophy in life is the phrase, perception is truth. What the people perceive is what the people believe. And I argue with people about this all the time. How you communicate affects the way you are perceived by other people you interact with every day. This happens on a global standpoint. In our society today, it is the media shaping that larger perception. There was an incident that happened a couple years ago. The oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico blew up. Remember the BP rig, the Deepwater Horizon rig? It happened on a Tuesday morning. I called my wife and I said, hey, honey, we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to watch TV news for an hour and a half and take notes. There was silence on the phone. Truly, though, that night I went home, I got my notepad out, and I turned on Fox News. And for a half an hour, I was taking notes about what Fox was talking about, the explosion. Then I flipped it over to MSNBC for half an hour, took notes, then over to CNN. At the end of that hour and a half, I looked at my notepad. I was shocked. 3 completely different news stories, and I said to myself, well, how can that be? The facts are all the same, right? The thing blew up. But see, who was Fox News talking to? The oilmen down there in Louisiana and talking about how this is going to affect supply and business type things. And who was MSNBC, the anti-Fox, talking to? The environmentalists, the Sierra Club, talking about all the ducks that are going to have oil on their head, CNN something else. So my point to you is if you watch nothing but Fox News, you will only get what? One side of the story. Same with MSNBC and so on. A little bit more about me. I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I went to The Ohio State University. About 5 years ago, we're living in Columbus, and after the 23rd straight day of below zero weather, not below freezing, below zero weather, my wife said, why are we living here? And I said, well, honey, my business is here. And she said, you're on the road every week. And I said, good point. So I said, all right, honey, if we're going to move south, we're going to go all the way. So I moved to a place called Sarasota, Florida. So I live on the west coast of Florida now. And about a year after I moved, I was so excited because it was my first hurricane. So as a Midwesterner, truly, I had no idea what to expect. We have these shutters on our windows. We batten down the hatches. The hurricane hits on a Sunday night. The next morning, we wake up, nervously throw back the shutters, look around. Bless the Lord, a lot of yard debris, but no damage whatsoever. So that night we're watching CNN, and Anderson Cooper is doing a live shot from a place called Bradenton, Florida, which is 5 miles from my house. And behind Anderson is this massive tree that had been completely uprooted. I guess it was a trailer that had been shredded into 1,000 pieces of metal. There were baby diapers and clothes all in the scene. Now, you're sitting in New York City, Detroit, Michigan, Sacramento, California, San Antonio, Texas, or wherever, and you're watching that. What's your perception of what happened to the west coast of Florida? Devastation, right? I looked at my wife, I said, huh? We got in the car, we drove out there. It was the only damage within 50 square miles, and Anderson Cooper found it. So in our society today, if you really think about it, it's the news media shaping that larger perception. Now, for all you sitting here thinking, well, I don't have anything to do with the media, why is he even telling me this stuff? I got to tell you, anytime that you communicate in life, presentations, conversations, running meetings, the phrase perception is truth is very applicable. There are two key concepts that form the foundation of everything that I teach in life. Number one thing, you all got to get into your head. When you have a conversation with another person, when you present to people, when you run a meeting or whatever, when you walk out of that meeting, when you end that presentation, when you hang up that phone, that person or those people will only retain 20 to 30% of what you said. If I'd call you tomorrow and say, hey, Bob, it's Anthony, and I said, hey, man, what did we talk about on that video yesterday? Studies show that you and everybody that watches me could only give me the highlights, the 20 to 30% of my little talk today. You couldn't regurgitate 100%, but you will all have a what? A perception of me as a communicator. Now, what I'm about to tell you is going to make you blow your mind. If studies consistently show that people really only take away about 20% of what you tell them, what is the 20% that you want them to remember? Is it 20 of the random percent that you're spewing out of your mouth? Or are you thinking strategically about your content? Have you ever heard of the marketing rule of 7? What does that mean? In marketing and advertising of product, services, and your company or whatever, you need to expose your audience to your messages at least 7 times before it's implanted in somebody's brain. Well, knowing they're only going to remember 20%, what strategic thought are you putting into those words? This applies to anybody involved in sales. You're selling a product, I don't care what it is. You're selling a service, I don't care what it is. When you go into sales calls, you better be thinking about, what do I want this person to remember at the end of my call here? And if it's not what's going to get you the sale, that's a problem. So that's concept 1. At any given time, when you leave that meeting, they're only going to remember 20%. Concept 2. While you are talking in meetings, presentations, conversations, while you are talking at any given time, 50% of your audience is not paying attention. 50% of your audience is engaged in a deep personal thought. Right now, half of you aren't even listening to me. Truly, what are you thinking? My wife hates me. My kid's an idiot. Where are we going to have dinner tonight? Truly knowing, even for great presenters, that at any given time, half the audience is mentally checked out. What do you think our goal is when we talk to people? To constantly snap the audience back, engage with them. Here's the problem, though, that I found working with all these people in business. Most of the people that get up to present sound like this. Hi, my name is Bob. I'm never going to look anywhere else the entire day. I'm going to drone on in one monotonous tone. I've got 50,000 PowerPoint slides. What do you think happens when people in the audience hear something like that? Where does 50% of the audience not paying attention go? Up to 80 to 90%, right? And where does the retention of content go? Down 5 to 10%. So if you want more people to hear the words that are coming out of your mouth, and more of those people to retain more of those words, you need to be what I call an interesting communicator and learn how to snap the people back. So that's what we're going to focus on. If you really think about it, in all my training, 2 things going on. What you're saying, how you're saying it. They need to be treated equally important.